This video is going to be a fun one. Hey, what's up? It's your boy Dynasty back with another Mortal Kombat 1 video, and take everything we're about to discuss at face value. Nothing is 110% confirmed. Things are always subject to change. What we're talking about is pure speculation, some opinion, courtesy of some research that Interloko has done after the most recent Ghostface patch update for MK1 went live. If you've been watching the last few videos here on the channel, you know initially Interloko came across 8 DLC character slots remaining in the MK1 source code. Those could go to Kameo fighters, main roster fighters. We don't know the actual numbers and where they're gonna end up, but that's how things kicked off over the weekend. Then, days after those 8 DLC character slots were discovered, Interloko ran some tests and came across 2 different sets of characters. The top left, which could be your possible cameos, the bottom right being not only your possible cameos, but your possible main roster characters as well. And that's pretty much where we left off. Yesterday, last night, we had a small update from Interloko, but nothing really too much going on. Just some reiteration that this is all purely speculation. Again, nothing 110% confirmed. However, hot off the wire just a few hours ago, Interloko dropped a bombshell, dropped a video dubbed more information, speculation about the next DLC, and in that video, Interloko essentially gives us this right here, and it's a lot of breakdown, so I'm going to try my best to explain everything, but I highly suggest going and showing Interloko's original video some love. I'll have it linked in the description down below because he explains it far better than I can. I'm just going to relay what he said and give my thoughts on all of it because it seems like you guys like to hear my opinion on all these recent Mortal Kombat 1 data mine leaks and discoveries. So before we get into all this, you guys know the drill by now. It takes you 1 second. If you could do me a solid, please drop a like on the video. I want to say thank you guys for showing so much support, not only on my channel, but on Interloko's as well. For real, I love you guys. Thank you for always coming back and supporting your boy and his friends. And with that said, let's begin the fun and discuss all these recent statements, speculation from Interloko. So essentially, Interloko initially over on X, Twitter, came out and was asking you guys, the Mortal Kombat community, who would you want to see in a future DLC pack a la the Kombat Pack 3? And Interloko did his best to determine who would be in the KP3 based on his research, opinion, and some speculation. And again, it was over 150 different characters that you guys sent Interloko, including guest and Mortal Kombat characters. So pretty much, Interloko grabbed all those names and ran a few tests that included a bunch of false positives. And because of that, Interloko ended up using another variable focused around the announcer files in the Mortal Kombat 1 source code. Previously, many of the eventual characters that got their announcer voice were DLC characters. If they're a DLC character, 9 times out of 10, they're getting an announcer file. So Interloko put that in his head and was like, you know what? Something might be here. So that's kind of how this new variable was created and how the process determining who could end up being our final DLC characters kicked off. In particular, according to Interloko, this worked far better for the actual guest characters than the Mortal Kombat characters in this list of over 150 characters. Now, obviously, it's been 4 minutes. You can see who's on the screen right now. You have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you have Rorschach, you have Marvel's Wolverine, which what are we doing here, Interloko? Blaze, Jade, Jarek, Kotal Khan, Nightwolf, and Triborg. Now, in comparison to the last video, the only characters that are missing from that final batch on the bottom right screen, Suhal and Cobra. Those are the only ones that are missing. I think Cassie Blade, Dagon, and Hanzo Asashi with mocap, if we're including the cameos, but outside of those few characters, this is who was remaining at the end of all these tests. Again, if you watched my previous video, you understand that these squares, boxes around certain characters that are color coordinated, that means that these characters could be sharing the same character select slot. So on that top row, you're seeing all the potential guest DLC after this research was done. It's 3, however, Rorschach and Wolverine are sharing the same spot, and obviously this Marvel character is probably never going to see the light of day in a Mortal Kombat game. I mean, maybe? Conan was owned by Marvel, I think, up until 2023, the beginning of it. So, I mean, if the license falls off, maybe. I think it's probably a codename, but there's no way we're getting Wolverine, which means that Rorschach is probably one of the guests coming, along with Buffy, because Buffy shares the same spot as Kotal Khan, yet I'm pretty sure Kotal Khan will more than likely be a cameo because the basis of his moveset is going to be probably given to Conan the Barbarian. So, that's kind of crazy because, well, both Buffy and Rorschach have been teased by Ed Boon for both Injustice and Mortal Kombat since, well, MK9. I can remember people asking for Buffy the Vampire Slayer since 2011. And funny enough, we've never had a female guest character, and that's one thing that I wish they would fix. If there was one character that would have some amazing dialogue against Natara, it would be Buffy the Vampire Slayer threatening a stake through her horrible voice acting. Can I say that on YouTube? What do you do with vampires? So there you go. That is awesome. Having Buffy would be sick. Bro, having a Watchmen character would be so sick. I always would want to see Rorschach in an Injustice game, but because of the tone of Watchmen, it being darker and grittier, I guess I always was content if it happened in Mortal Kombat, and given that we have pretty much a bunch of superhero guest characters in this game through DLC, and Omni-Man, Peacemaker, Homelander. If you were going to continue that trend of superheroes in MK1, there is one perfect Watchman that kind of just fits the bill. It's Rorschach. So, dude, from a gameplay standpoint as well, I would be so intrigued to see how Rorschach plays. Buffy, I guess, is just going to be kind of running around with a stake. Those two guest characters, again, nothing confirmed, but they kind of make sense. They really do make a lot of sense. I'm excited for that. Again, I'm trying to not jump the gun here, but out of all the guests that we could get, I'm not shocked that these seem to make the most sense. So there you go. Again, I don't know why Wolverine's there. I wish Interloko could explain why Wolverine made it this far, but maybe one day we'll get the whole process behind the filters and the variables used in the actual source code to get here. Now, making our way to the Mortal Kombat characters on the bottom row, this is where things get interesting because you gotta remember, even though Interloko came out and said he found 8 unknown DLC slots still sitting there for the character select screen on the roster, that doesn't necessarily mean that all 8 of those slots are going to actually be used. So keep that in mind. I'm saying that because if you look at the bottom row, we only have 6 Mortal Kombat characters left. The top 2, those are our guests, Rorschach and Buffy. The bottom are 6 MK characters, yet you can see on the far right side, Nightwolf and Triborg are sharing a spot. So it's not 6, it's either or, which would give us 5. Then next to Nightwolf, you can see Kotal Khan sharing a spot with Buffy. I think Buffy probably has a better chance than Kotal, so that would leave us with, 1, 2, 3, 4 Mortal Kombat characters and potentially 2 guest characters. Give us 6 out of the 8. Again, that is just based on these filters, recent tests. For all I know, all 8 slots are going to actually be used, but currently, this is how things are shaping up to be. So again, if things aren't making any sense, it's all a work in progress. So I'm just trying to do my best here to explain it to you. But yo, look it, Blaze now has his own spot. Same thing can be said for Jade and Jarek. And again, previously, those first 3 right there were actually sharing a spot with other Mortal Kombat characters. So that's kind of exciting to your fan of those 3 characters. Again, we don't know if they're going to be cameos or main roster characters, but regardless, they made it till the end of all these tests that Interloko did. And it wasn't just one, it was several. So Blaze, Jade, and Jarek fans are eating good. Kotal fans, I'm sorry. And the same thing can be said for either Nightwolf and Triborg fans. Again, who's going to be that fourth character? Because I'm convinced Buffy isn't going to miss the spot. I think Kotal is hopefully in the game, but if it's between him and Buffy, they gotta pick Buffy. But maybe they end up not sharing spots, and this is our full-blown DLC, and we get all 8. Obviously, if you watch my last couple videos, I talk about the playstyles, expectations for all of these characters in depth ad nauseum, so I'm not gonna just do the same thing I did in that video. If you want to hear my thoughts on all of this, because it's more or less all the characters we talked about previously, apart from the guest, go watch those videos because I'm going to try to save you guys some time. Now, Interloko goes on to say that, in theory, if Kodokan joins, he's taken Buffy's spot. The last DLC character for the Kombat Pack 2 is more than likely dropping in March of 2025, and in regards to the timeline, we typically get a new DLC character every month and a half or 2 months, so because of that, from May to July could be when the upcoming DLC cameo fighters are added. Obviously, Ed Boon's already confirmed that we're going to be getting some more cameos in the future, so given the recent release date track record, May to July makes the most sense to expect our first standalone cameo fighter DLC pack, so be on the lookout for that. From now up until July, that'll probably be when that actually gets released, announced obviously much sooner than the actual release date. Funny enough, a few months after July would be September, and it seems like they probably would want to keep this whole September expansion anniversary thing going. Initially, we got our game in September, then we got our first expansion a year later in September, so I'd assume that the KP3 expansion, if there is a story expansion, would probably also drop in September with a few of these upcoming DLC characters for the main roster. Just like we've seen previously with these story expansions, they like to give you a few characters at one time, then shortly after that, in the months afterward, that'll be when you get the final remaining characters for the hypothetical Kombat Pack 3. Leading you well into the beginning of 2026, and then I would assume that by September of that year, the game is announced and released, and there you go. That might be the end of support for Mortal Kombat 1. Again, hypothetically, if they choose to continue supporting this game with the exact same, formula they did up until now. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Interloko does think that the story mode characters, depending on the story they want to tell, if they go the Cyber Initiative route, that could tie into Triborg's comeback. Obviously, they could probably add a bunch of new Cyber Ninjas that we've never seen before. Seems like the Cyber Initiative's gonna be a thing. Sector and Cyrax just arrived, so why not explore the Cyber Initiative? They do in every single timeline. I would be shocked if we don't get to see that expanded in the future, and honestly, it would be kind of redundant to have this many Cyber Ninjas in MK1, but if done correctly, why not? Right? I mean, I'd rather have Nightwolf, to be completely honest, but I can kind of see how that would tie in. If they do have the Cyber Initiative, Triborg is actually now going to be in canon, a real thing, a real character. That's how you do it. As for Jarek, if they actually bring up the Black Dragon, obviously Kano's not on the main roster. How do you get that Kano gameplay if it's not through Ghostface? You gotta use Jarek. So because of that, it'd be a nice way to reintroduce Jarek now that Kano's currently resting on the Kameo roster. So depending on the story they tell, that's how Interloko thinks this is going to go down. Again, nothing is ever 110% confirmed, at least currently. It's easier to deconfirm characters than to actually confirm them. And out of the 150 plus characters that Interloko threw inside these variables, doing these tests in the background, the Mortal Kombat characters that remain would hypothetically have their own announcer voices. And that's how they made it all the way to the end. So there you go. That's essentially the update we got from Interloko in a nutshell. A lot of stuff. A lot cooking from NetherRealm. I'm excited to see in the coming days, weeks, if the Thinny discovers anything that's potentially in relation to any other stuff that was found in these tests that Interloko is doing, because it's intriguing. Obviously, on the horizon, we for sure are gonna get some more cameo fighters. I would kind of be shocked if we didn't get a few more characters on that main roster. I just kind of feel like, given that most recent statement made where they're trying to just give us more and more Mortal Kombat, WB needs to make more money. What I would do is probably already set up Mortal Kombat 2 through these expansions, maybe finally give us a first look, a tease at Onaga for MK2, give us a reason to be excited for this next game. For a lot of us, we were kind of underwhelmed with Mortal Kombat 1, so at least if you round it all out with a Kombat Pack 3, kind of tease the future a little bit like we've seen them do previously, give us some cool characters or obscure ones that we've never seen before. And honestly, this roster is filled with so many 3D era characters. So Blaze, Jarek, I can't complain. Jade's a fan favorite. Come back. All these characters I think are pretty decent. They're definitely obscure and not my first picks, but when you think about it, I think it makes sense. I'm still also holding out for Cassie Cage. I want to see Sonya Blade on the main roster. It's probably not going to happen, so the next best thing's Cassie. I love Cassie. I hope Cassie makes it. I'm still holding out hope for Cassie, but this kind of broke my heart, so we'll see what happens. Again, please go watch Interloko's video because I feel like that'll probably give you a better understanding than I could from the horse's mouth. I don't think I missed anything in translation, but if I did, I'm sorry. Of course, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this. If we get all of these characters right here, obviously without Wolverine, these 8, not including Wolverine, would you be content? Because I know for me, I don't think it would be too shabby. I really don't. So I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Please go show Interloko some love on his video that he posted tonight. Without him, these videos don't happen. Without you guys, these videos don't happen. So until next time, I've been your host, Boon Dynasty. Guys, please take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Living on a crack, but I'm not superstitious. Count all these racks, I be steady counting my digits. Slipping on a crack, I am not superstitious. Counting all these racks, I be steady counting my